Now we're going to move on to Mercury-Node. Within Uranian astrology, the node has to do with our intimate connections. And the reason for that is because the nodes represent the crossing points of our two most intimate lovers within our solar system, the Sun and the Moon. Since time immemorial, the Sun has been considered to be the father of heaven, and the Moon has been considered to be the mother of heaven. Therefore, their crossing points, the North and South Node, are representing an intimate point of connection between our cosmic parents. It's for this reason that in Uranian astrology, the nodes are considered to be points of intimate connection. And since in Uranian astrology we only use hard aspects, we usually are just referring to the North Node because any hard aspect that the North Node is receiving is also going to be a hard aspect that the South Node is receiving. So in Uranian astrology, when we're referring to the nodes, we typically just say the node. With the nodes representing our intimate connections and Mercury representing our intellect, Mercury-Node in combination has to do with us forming intellectual intimate connections within this lifetime. The combination of Mercury-Node is a wonderful combination for people who are working in the technological field or people who are working in the educational field, because Mercury and Node says that I find my intimate connections around people who I also find to be intellectually stimulating. And in much the same way as Venus Node is a combination that we oftentimes find within the charts of people who are working in the artistic industry, Mercury Node is a combination that we oftentimes find within the charts of people who are working in the educational, communicative, or technological industries. In particular, Mercury, from a traditional astrological perspective, also has to do with children. And that's why the combination of Mercury and Node can have to do with us forming intimate connections with children. And this is something that we find within the charts of people who are school teachers, whether they're teaching young children in kindergarten, children in primary school or high school, or even if they're teaching in any capacity at a university level. Mercury Node has to do with us constantly being surrounded by young people, and as a result of that, us constantly having a new fountain of intellectual thoughts arising within us that stimulates us to think in deeper, more profound ways. When we have hard aspects of Mercury and the Node within our natal chart, it can lead us towards these fields where we find ourselves working around young people, or where we find ourselves working for young people. Which is why Mercury and Node can also be something that we find within the charts of pediatricians, or within the charts of anybody who is doing any sort of therapeutic work that involves young people as well, whether that is a counselor who primarily specializes in counseling children, or whether that's a doctor who specifically specializes in working with children. Mercury and the Node has to do with working with young people, and it covers the entire spectrum of what that work can look like. On the other hand, Mercury and the Node has to do with working or forging intimate connections with others based on language. So people who are linguists or writers or journalists, or who enjoy communicating with others, those people are also going to be having the Mercury-Node combination within their birth chart. People who are speech pathologists or who work with people to correct their use of language and their mastery of a language are also going to be people with Mercury-Node as a combination, because chances are those people are going to love to communicate, and they love to communicate about communicating. Therefore, the Mercury-Node combination in all of its manifestations have to do with us being constantly surrounded by stimulating sources of intellectual communication with others within our immediate environment. The negative part about having Mercury-Node is that Mercury-Node can sometimes cause us to have intimate connections with people who are all talk and no action. So sometimes, if you find yourself in a situation where you are constantly talking and debating and going over the ideas and constantly mulling over the things that should be done, but there is no action surrounding those things that you're thinking about, that can sometimes be signified by having Mercury-Node as well. Because sometimes when we have Mercury node, we are so enthralled and so thrilled by the process of just talking for the sake of talking that that process might get in the way of us actually getting things done in the material plane. However, positively, Mercury and Node is a wonderful combination because the Mercury and Node combination says that we do know how to sit down and lay out a blueprint. We do know how to sit down and lay out a plan. We do know how to sit down and organize the efforts of everybody around us so that when it does come to the point of taking action on the things that we're discussing and planning and laying out the blueprint of, we will be able to do so in a way that is more efficient and in a way that has a greater, more lasting impact. So, the level of intellection that's occurring within a Mercury node think tank is oftentimes necessary so that we can measure twice and cut once. Which is a quote I love, which means that through the process of our planning and preparation, we can ensure that when we actually do take action, the actions that we take are grounded and based on something that we truly believe in and based on something that we've truly tested within ourselves to be true, as opposed to acting in a way that's rash and impulsive and therefore having to redo those actions as a result of having made a mistake. So, whether you have Mercury node and you're working in the communicative field or the educational field, Mercury node is a powerful combination for helping us organize our thoughts with other people who think in a similar manner to us, and it's a wonderful combination for being constantly surrounded by stimulating intellectual contacts who have the ability to help us grow our own thoughts and ideas about how the world should operate.